Oli, quick question for you, mate. I think one of the kind of things that I see a lot, especially in my agency, promoting a lot of clients, etc., is this situation where a client might build a new funnel, and it might be a brand new funnel for a brand new business, or it might be an existing business and it's a new product, for example. And the question that's often asked, or the question that I often ask my clients really more than anything else is, how well does this product currently sell? But typically they may not know that just yet, and they're looking to actually promote it for the first time. So if we were to look at promoting a new product, or looking to, if you're looking to introduce a new product into the marketplace, how would you know, or what kind of indicators would you take to know that this is going to be a seller or not? Is there anything that you do to be like, I know this is going to do well in this marketplace, or is it just a case of just hoping? Or because I know a lot of people just say just test it, but there must be a better way of doing it.
That's like the de facto thing, isn't it? Like everybody just says, well, find out, just test it, and let's hopefully we give a better kind of answer to this than that. So,
yeah, because it's normally me that has to test it, and it's expensive, right? So
yeah,
it's a better way of doing
I was
this
going to say, yeah. And yeah, for me, we often build funnels for people that they've never built that funnel before, and so it's difficult to benchmark stuff and understand whether or not actually this really works or not. So yeah, so really for me, I think it's kind of part of it's down to market reconnaissance as such from the very beginning, kind of really doing some critical thinking about the audience and the market that you ultimately are trying to engage with, the likelihood that they're actually going to convert to not just be a lead, but actually become a customer.
Yeah.
Just because you can build a list quite quickly, just because you can, generate that list fairly affordably, doesn't necessarily mean that product that you're ultimately going to try and sell is going to be profitable for you in the long run. So it's really looking at a number of different things, but I think that most people go and build it, and they have this that notion that if I go and build the best membership site, or I go and create this product or this course or whatever it may be, that because of how good it is or how good they think it is, that they think that'll automatically carry that product towards some sort of success, and that really isn't the case at all. And quite often it's really about dialing into the market. It's also dialing into existing customers and understanding what they think about that if you're introducing it into your existing business, and really getting a good understanding for that, and to then go forward and test quite cheaply to understand whether or not there is people out there that are putting their hands up and not necessarily just getting on a list, but also potentially buying something as well from you.
So how would you, at what point, I should really say, is like, at what point do you decide this is a good idea to keep on promoting this product or not? Like, do you say, because as you were talking, I was making some notes as well. I was thinking like, right, okay, well, there's one thing which is like the quality of the traffic that you're sending there to begin with. Because if you're sending bad quality traffic, it's not a fair test. You don't know if it's actually a good product or not. So I suppose that's a consideration. The next thing is like you might have really good traffic who are actively ready to buy, but you're just giving them the wrong thing. So I suppose that's another consideration. But how would you go about testing it? Because say, for example, it is a high price ticket item, and you're willing to spend, let's say, $1,000 to acquire a new customer because you know it's going to be worth $50,000 to you or something. That could get very expensive very quickly, and you still don't have enough data to really decide whether it's a good product or not, and you have to give it more time, for example. Would you put something else in place, like a fail-safe, to be like, okay, well, let's get a smaller price product out to that market first, see if they bite, and if they do, then maybe we're in the right sort of ballpark of the right sort of customer and the right sort of products. But how would you go about it if it was a high price ticket item? I get that if it's a lower price, you kind of like you can test it with some leads straight away, and you can see. But how do you know if you, and this might not have an answer to this, and this is why we're discussing it, I suppose, but would you put something in place like that? Would you put something in place which is a smaller priced item, or would you just continue testing? What would your strategy be?
Yeah, so for a long time now, and a lot of people have the term tripwire, and no, I'm not kind of getting away from the fact that that's a very it's a tactic that can be used and employed very effectively to separate buyers from non-buyers and trying to move people across the free line of just consuming free stuff. But actually, the term tripwire really is what I term to be a self-liquidating offer. Now, self-liquidating offers have been around for, oh God, I was reading an ad that we were doing some modeling on that was from the 1930s, right?
Keeping it old school, like it.
Yeah, and doing postage and packaging type offers, or kind of anything that's going to liquidate the cost of actually getting people to the action that you want them to take is a good thing, because then you've got an infinite budget that you can obviously put towards more traffic or gaining more understanding within that marketplace, whether or not it's something that you want to move forward with. So when do you stop, and how does that work from a high ticket perspective, and so on and so forth? I guess really having a self-liquidating offer and having that broken out from maybe the core product in some way is a good thing. And I would take the end product that you're trying to sell, break a bit of that off, break a chunk of it off, and offer that as some kind of self-liquidating offer, and trying to get people to move from, opting in or whatever it may be that they're doing, getting on your list, to that self-liquidating offer as soon as possible. You'll see people do that pretty much immediately after they opt in. And you've got to sell that quite as hard as you've got to sell the end thing as well. So I always look at, a lot of people do metrics and measurements and kind of try to get quite scientific quite quickly. I actually also look at that time between those milestones. So how soon are they converting from them becoming a lead to becoming that initial purchase that they make? What's the time period? Because in some cases, as you just mentioned quite yourself there, you can be in a situation where you might not have that time, right? And so if you're selling something for $50,000, pounds, whatever it may be, the fact is that you've got to be able to bankroll that time before people start to convert. So it's really for me, it's the attribution as well of where they initially came through from to understand if they converted. So that starts to get a bit more complicated, obviously. And obviously, the kind of what we're trying to answer in here, we're kind of dealing with a big, hairy topic of how do you know if a product's going to work or not? And what I would say, this probably comes back to a traffic thing, actually, is kind of what channels could you use right now? If we were taking my self-liquidating offer approach and taking a chunk out of that product and making it real for somebody to buy, pretty much the two things I would use is some kind of giveaway, some kind of lead magnet, and that self-liquidating offer of some description. I'd start with those two things. What could we use from a traffic perspective that could drive people there that would be effective and give us some indication if there was that market there?
Brilliant. Okay, so just to recap on that then. So like if you had a product that is of a significant investment for somebody, and it's not easy to test it, because it's not easy to say, well, we're going to run like $5,000 worth of traffic and see if it works, because if it doesn't work out, especially for a smaller business, that hurts. It hurts a lot. And it hurts me because I promote clients with my own spend and get recouped when we get leads or sales for clients. So having a self-liquidating offer in there, I never like the word tripwire. I don't like the idea of tripping over your customers. Just doesn't feel right. So I like the fact that self-liquidating offer sounds a lot better. So you'd have something that complements the bigger purchase, but it's a much smaller price point. And I suppose it's just it does two things. One, it recoups the advertising spend or the marketing spend. And it also gives you a great indication as to whether that product is actually going to be any good in terms of selling that product. Because if they like one thing and they like you, I suppose, like you as a business or you as a brand, they are going to then potentially say, right, okay, we've taken the first step. There's a bit of commitment there, and it's likely to carry on being consistent through the funnel.
Yeah, and I just to add to that, actually, a lot of the time once you've actually, somebody's actually got their credit card out, they're giving you some money, and they then consume that first initial purchase, you then may dial in that bigger product that you shouldn't have yet made, really, towards asking what that market want before you go and make it. So the old adage is, kind of ask them what they want and then give it to them. Well, that's the best way of doing that. Building a list at the same time, liquidating as much of the cost of that up front as possible, so long as the lead to first purchase time is fairly good. Get those metrics and then start asking them, what do you want, rather than just going ahead to make something that you think that they need.
How like I'm always reminded whenever because I love that approach of surveying your audience and asking them what they want, and then therefore creating what they do want. That makes a lot of sense. I think that sometimes when you're bringing a brand new product into the marketplace, they would never have said that's what they want because they didn't know it existed in the first place. A bit like if you'd asked if Henry Ford had taken that approach, he would have had a better carriage and a better horse, for example. And would never have built the car, for example. So there's like an argument to say that. And I think a lot of people also think that their own products are going to be groundbreaking. I think a lot of people believe that, and they get very kind of like rosy-eyed, and they think, oh God, the world's going to love what I've got to promote here, and then the market will always decide. So there's always a big disconnect there. So if you are going to bring out something completely new that no one's seen before, almost like like maybe not the new Tesla car because there's been that sort of movement already, but something along those lines, like a new renewable type of energy or something along those lines, like. Is that a case of just like doing very, very good brand awareness work to begin with and then thinking about the conversion quickly after that? Is there a consideration there? Or, and again, it's kind of like, this is not the sort of thing where there's necessarily an answer. It's more a case of just a question.
I think from a branding perspective, it depends on, your brand as a business in terms of what tactics you might employ to be able to get that information and how you might go about doing that based on the budgets that you have, who you're trying to placate. For me as a business owner, the only thing I'm really interested in is, kind of getting more customers and keeping them. Now, if I'm launching a new product, something like Tesla or something like that, then I've got shareholders, I've got investors, stakeholders in the business. I've got to go about things in a slightly different way than direct response, direct marketing. Now, there's a way to actually marry up those two things, and some businesses, some bigger brands actually do that quite well. But most small business owners don't have those budgets to go about those things in the same way. So, for us, from a small business perspective, it's really about getting a handle on quite quickly. Doing the market research is such a big part of really trying to get clear on whether or not this is something that we should be able to continue with moving forward with, regardless of how good we think the idea is. And there are some good indicators before we even do traffic, before we even do lead magnets and self-liquidating offers to tell us more. We've got good search tools. I mean, there's some great software out there to understand what people are actually intentionally looking for. And then also we're talking about, markets that people might be interested in this product because they're interested in something else. So maybe their demographic or psychographic information might give us an indication for that pool of people. And that's where then through some of the traffic stuff that you do, you're able to quickly, easily and affordably dial into that market that has some association to what you might be looking to sell. And give them an offer because you already know that so many people are looking for something, or so many people are associated to this marketplace, and that's exciting because that gives you a good idea for that, for sure.
I suppose about finding that hungry audience to begin with is always key. Like if you know that they're hungry, then you know that you can sell them something. I suppose that comes back to that what I said earlier about like the quality of the traffic. If they're actually interested in this topic already, kind of bringing a new product into the market that no one's ever heard of before is going to be much more likely to be successful if there's already an existing audience that likes stuff similar to that already.
And that existing audience could also be your existing customer base. So we've created a lot of businesses that have been businesses within businesses. So we've already got like a tribe or a herd of people that follow something that we do. Yeah, and it kind of makes sense for us to ask them, hey, so if we go in this direction, is that something that you would be interested in? And we call that like priming the audience, because I don't want to go and make a certified online course or a home study course or I mean, that's just info, right? I mean, we could be talking about anything here. We could be talking about a new fitness program for somebody, or writing a book even. I want to know people that already spend money with me, kind of, is this something that they would be interested in and interested in buying, right? And how many other people's customers would be interested in buying that as well. So there's opportunities to partner and find that information out through some surveys and be a bit more dynamic over things than those things that we've got at our disposal now, more than we ever had before. So
what's really interesting for me, I think, is that as well as the kind of like the mechanics of taking someone who is interested to become a customer and opening up their wallets and actually spending money with you, is the difference of where that traffic has come from to begin with, like the context of it. Because I think that, like, if you're to be, let's just take advertising, and that's what I do, I'm very comfortable with that. If we're to look at something like Facebook, you're kind of getting in front of an identity. You're saying, right, based on people that are interested in this type of topic and are this sort of demographic, or have classified themselves as this sort of person, I'm going to get in front of that sort of identity and promote my product to those people, like push my message on those people. Which is where I think this question comes from, really, more than anything else, is like, how do you know those people are going to be interested in your product? Just based on their demographics and their interests and their identity is there's going to have to be some good guesswork going on there. Whereas with a platform like YouTube, people are going there off their own motivation, and they're going to YouTube to begin with looking for something which is going to help them find out something about something they want to know about, do, or buy something. So you can tell by the videos that people are watching what's kind of most interesting to them. And you can kind of just see by the title and the content of the video and the comments underneath, etc. The community's there and asking those questions already. And that's why I think YouTube is such a interesting platform to be advertising on, because you can see what people are up to, see what they want, and if they're in that kind of like in that moment in time where they're looking up an information video, you know what they're interested in. You know they're watching that video all the way through about how to do this or how to do that, or can you give me a review on this product, for example. And if everyone's doing that and there's loads and loads of views on that topic, you know there's kind of like, that's almost like market research done. Almost, it's like, right, yeah, that's what people are looking up and spending their time doing that stuff, and you know their motivations behind it. You're so much closer to the buying decision, and so then your message to those people can be a lot more congruent, and it should mean that the products you create, it shouldn't be the case of thing of like, here's my product, how do I promote it? It should be more like, here's the hungry audience and this is what they want, here's a product that will fit that market. And I think that's what you were saying earlier, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I also think it just reminds me of kind of the lesson of sometimes you've got to do the hard work to make the selling easy. And
yeah, I like that.
A lot of the time people underestimate despite all of the, I guess sometimes they look at either their existing market or other people within their marketplace and just assume that they kind of landed where they are quite quickly and quite easily. When in actual fact, there's a lot that goes behind launching a new product, a new business, a new idea, a new concept even, than just kind of a bit of market research and a bit of kind of just getting it out there. People, my favorite quote is a Gary Halbert quote, which is kind of motion beats meditation. The idea that good is good enough, and the quicker that you move forward, the quicker you take action, the faster you take action, naturally things will happen, and they will, because that's kind of cause and effect. But actually, the truth is, you'll also fail a lot doing that. And you'll suffer from fatigue as well, from not really being too considered in your approach in researching anything, especially trying to launch a new product, a new division, whatever it is you're doing. So do the hard work. And as you just said, from a YouTube perspective, some of that's just psychology. Some people aren't very good at asking the right questions, and they don't really go deep enough to really understand the desires, the needs, and the problems of those people. And that is the hard work. Really getting that message to market match as tightly aligned as possible so that you can effectively advertise and acquire customers as you would want them to. And as you mentioned, that's very relevant to intentional searches from a traffic perspective. It's very relevant to display-based searches, be it Facebook or YouTube from a video perspective. And it's also very relevant from a conversion perspective of how you talk, what language you use. And actually, that research goes looking at those comments, looking at what people are actually saying about those videos, or what comments they're making actually on Facebook, because you can learn a lot by listening, and a lot of people listen.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So let's put this into practice then. So let's try and think of a step-by-step, if we can, of some sort to say, right, okay, if we're going to bring a new product into the market, what steps we'd take to begin with. I think if we were to look at the whole customer journey to begin with, I might say, right, let's say, for example, in some industry, I think to begin with, what I would do is go to YouTube, start looking at videos about that particular topic that you think you might be able to create a product around that kind of industry, and look at all the different videos, look at the comments, look at what people are talking about. I know Twitter's good for it as well, like looking at Twitter search and looking at like that particular content and looking at what other people are mentioning about it, seeing the conversations, maybe other blogs, maybe other forums, etc. Once you've gathered that information, what would your next step be at that point? Would you look to think about your lead magnet at that point, or would it be something different?
I would probably, I'd probably actually start with what problem they have and corralling them into buckets. So I'd probably think about some the best thing is to solving a problem. So what problem is it I'm trying to solve, and does that differ, or can we corral that into one thing? Because if it's different, we need enough of something to make something out of it and to go through the effort of creating something. But my first place is to start with the self-liquidating offer. Okay. Now, I've done it the other way, and I've looked at creating even the ads first. Trying to get a message.
Don't even know what you're promoting yet. But yeah, let's just create some ads.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, and I've done it from trying to create a lead magnet, and then you realise that then you could have spent that time on generating something that was more relevant, that would actually indicate interest more than anything else. So start with the offer first of the self-liquidating thing. Okay. I'd then break a chunk of that out, and I'd make some kind of free giveaway from that lead magnet. I'd then also, from that lead magnet, create some kind of blog post or content from that lead magnet. Both of us have known for a while that just driving traffic into landing pages or squeeze pages isn't always, it is sometimes, it still works, but content and value first is a bit of a micro commitment to get the click, to get the consumption of content, to get them to get to the lead magnet, and then the lead magnet to the self-liquidating offer is a much better journey than just going from ad straight to, oh, so now you just want to get into the video series, or into the checklist, or you want to download the report. For me, you just need to take a little chunk out of each of those, and you're going to have that content for the blog post. You're going to have that device for the lead magnet from the self-liquidating offer. So start with that first, and then make sure at every step you're just creating immense value for the audience that you've reconned in the first place.
Nice. Okay, so
and then on to you for the ads.
And then you
obviously.
enter the ads, yeah, okay. Cool. So it would go market research to begin with, then your
Yes.
self-liquidating offer, plan what that's going to be for that market, and then almost your opt-in is kind of like to lubricate that, or at least like make sure that those two connect, sort of thing, to say, right, how are we going to get that lead magnet in front, sorry, not lead magnet, self-liquidating offer in front of that audience, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome, okay.
And then, having that content as a bit of a front ender there in terms of a blog post to understand, even time on page. I mean, I don't want to get too complicated, but, you want to know people are consuming that, because people will consume a video. Some people will consume a blog post. Some people will want to download the lead magnet immediately, because they'll consume content differently. But ultimately, it's those conversion points that you need to consider from there, really.
Well, the beautiful thing about the like the blog post or the ungated content of some sort, the beautiful thing about that is obviously you open yourself up to retargeting and remarketing as well. So people have consumed that content. And something I saw by Justin Brooke recently, he was talking about kind of like your timed remarketing pixels being fired after, let's say, 20, 30 seconds or so, because then all that bounce traffic disappears. And you're left with the people that have spent 20 to 30 seconds plus, or you can even go to 2 minutes or whatever you want to, and only those people land on your retargeting list or your remarketing list. And as a result, you've got like a higher quality, less people in it for sure, but a higher quality list there. And I thought it was really clever. It's an obvious thing, but clever, yeah.
No, it's super clever. I mean, you driving traffic to blog post, that's so valuable, because you could end up wasting a lot of time. I mean, ultimately, yeah, it'd be nice to say, we get 20%, 15%, 10%. But as a lot of people will tell you, when you start playing that game in terms of driving people to content, the lead time from click to initial opt-in is elongated, because you're not necessarily directly giving them an offer to just opt in for something. So yeah, very valuable and important to understand that, because just going back to what I said before in terms of I mean, you put it across in a very succinctly that I think the point here as well, once you have got those points in place, and you're creating your ad and the copy for your ad, in terms of the medium whatever medium you're using for that they are all very congruent together, and they all dial themselves back to that self-liquidating offer. I think that it's also important to know, if you can measure those milestone points from the time that they get on the list and the time that they get on the list to converting to actually becoming a paying person buying the self-liquidating offer, also gives you an indication for how long and how much money you have to spend over what time in order to get those conversions as well.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's such a clever way of looking at things, in terms of like, you start with that big question of, am I creating the right product for my market, and does that market exist? You can work out all of that stuff, but I really like the strategy of saying, well, start with the self-liquidating offer and make sure that matches with the audience or the people that are out there looking for this stuff already. Tie those two together, because then you're making a list of hungry people, hopefully for free, if not a little bit of profit out of it. But then you've got that proof of concept, and you've got that list building all the time, and you can work out that product, that big end product at the end, can't you? You can say, right, we're going to try out this. If it doesn't work, we'll tweak it a little bit. We'll adjust it to make sure we find out that perfect product. But you're not wasting a load of money doing it at the same time. Yeah,
definitely. I think good question, and I think that probably gives people a lot of perspective on not only a business within a business, a new business opportunity, a new product, or even a new launch of something that they're doing. Even maybe their existing product, it gives some guidance to the thinking behind what to do, and also how you can improve your existing offers, really, of how they're converting right now.